Hypixel is the largest Minecraft server on the planet, with over 500,000 unique players every single day. According to Hypixel, over 30 million different people have played on the network since they opened in 2013. No doubt including the majority of you watching this video, and in that time they've grown from just 2 founding staff members, Simon and Philippe, to employing over 80 paid employees for the Minecraft server alone. And that's not even counting their sister company Hytale making an entirely new game based on the Hypixel network, currently employing over 100 people. So that begs the question, how do they do it? When you join a Minecraft server, you can expect up to 7 megabits per second of internet just to download the world. So scaling that up to Hypixel's 200,000 concurrent player peak, we can tell that Hypixel would need an internet connection capable of handling hundreds or even thousands of gigabits per second. For reference, even the most expensive servers that Jeff Bezos sells max out at around 25 gigabits per second. And clearly Hypixel can't beat Amazon, or can they? Well, no. Instead, they split up their player base, putting less than 100 players on each server and buying hundreds of machines to run them, spending tens of thousands of dollars a month on hardware alone. Clearly this is expensive, but running these servers directly generates Hypixel much more in income than it costs. So this isn't the topic of today's video. No, this video is about something else. The Hypixel API. You see, out of these hundreds of thousands of active players, at least 2 of them can code. These hundreds of developers aren't employed by Hypixel, but create useful tools that the players on the network use day in, day out, for free. Take for example the mods that Skyblock players use, the stat trackers that Bed Wars, Jules and Skywars players use, or even fully fledged clients like Badlion, Feather Client and Luna. All of these are made by third parties and aren't directly paid by Hypixel for the work they do, but the value in their efforts doesn't go entirely unappreciated. Hypixel knows how much these developers bring to the table. If you've ever used one of these tools, you'll know firsthand how important they are. So they provide these developers with access to player information that they can use to make these tools possible. The service they create to do this is called the Hypixel API. That stands for Application Programming Interface, since it allows you to interact with an application, in this case Hypixel, while you're writing a program. With this tool, developers can show you information about your gameplay, other people's statistics, and just generally cool information from Hypixel. People use it to create Discord bots, overlays, leaderboards, mods, the list goes on. But the API has a problem. It's a bit too popular. According to this forum post by the Hypixel admin Connor Linford, their API serves over 3.8 petabytes of data per month. That's 3,800 terabytes, or assuming the average person in 2023 has a 256 gigabyte storage drive, that would fill 14,873 computers every single month. They also deliver 2.5 gigabits per second of data at peak times, and had over 1.5 million players with a valid key to access their API. These numbers are crazy, and it's clear why they decided they needed to cut costs here. It's not directly generating them income, and I'm sure for Hypixel it can be hard to see the benefits at times. So in February of 2023, they made a forum post stating that they're gonna stop players from generating API keys, and instead restrict the API to only developers who apply directly to Hypixel for a key on their new developer dashboard. While this certainly reduced their API's ongoing cost, I'm sure you can see it's not the ideal solution, and in our opinion it doesn't actually solve the underlying issue here, being the API wasn't designed for this. See, let's imagine your app simply gets user data when a user does something. Every time that user does an action, your app makes a request to Hypixel. Now who's more likely to use your app? A user who's used it before, or a completely new user? That's right, it's almost certainly someone who's used your app in the past. So let's imagine your app gets to 10,000 players who use it once a day. That's immediately 10,000 requests a day. There's not just one app though. Thousands of developers make apps like these, and the requests add up quickly. Even then, this is a super simple case. Let's instead think of a different app. For example, a Bed Wars tracker that shows how much you improve over time, or a Skyblock XP tracker to show off your daily stats. Yeah, that app has to check every registered player multiple times automatically. And this is actually against the Hypixel API rule, since they know how intensive it can be on their current system. To be clear, we're not proposing a change to this rule, rather a change to the reason it exists in the first place, making this type of usage way less stressful for the API itself. But is such an improvement even possible? Well, when it boils down to it, making tens of thousands of requests per day is going to be a lot to handle, regardless of their architecture. But what if this didn't need tens of thousands of requests per day? What if it didn't need more than one? Let's look at Discord. Their platform platform receives upwards of 4 billion messages per day. Does this mean a popular bot like Me6 makes over 1 billion API calls a day to Discord just to fetch user messages? No, instead they use a method much more suited for high loads like this. Discord tells Me6 when a new message comes through. Rather than serving billions of requests from a single application, basically Me6 says to Discord, hey, let me know when a new message is sent. Put it in my letterbox right here. And Discord sends Me6 each message as they arrive. This is much better than Me6 going back to Discord every millisecond and saying, hey, is there a new message yet? But you may be asking, does this not just shift the load to Discord since it still has to send the same amount of data? Well, it actually isn't the same amount of data. See, even if Me6 only made a request when there was a new message, the amount of time it takes to start a new connection, make sure it's secure, and transfer the message is much higher than using an existing connection to do so. Of course, there are certain considerations with persistent connections to keep in mind, but those are all addressed in the forums post in the description. So how would this benefit Hypixel? I've split this question into 3 parts, namely how does this help with existing applications, what new applications does this enable, and how much would this cost Hypixel? So how does this help with existing applications? Well, let's think about it for a second. The vast majority of users of any application are going to be repeat customers, at least as long as it's not some kind of scam. Let's say you're a profile viewing site for Skyblock, and you simply show player data when a user requests it. You could either use the current system and make a new request every time a user requests to view someone's profile, or you could use the new system and say, hey Hypixel, tell me whenever a Skyblock player's inventory or XP changes, then keep a record of the most frequently accessed profiles on your site. So when someone requests one of those, you don't have to make a new request to Hypixel, and you know for sure you have the most up-to-date information. This allows you to provide a service protected from Hypixel outages, make fewer requests and save more of your rate limit, and provide faster response times to your users. There are countless other benefits, but the clear main benefit is simply having the option to do this. You can still use the old system, or you can upgrade to the new and improved one. The choice is yours. Well, what new applications does this enable? With this proposal, the door is swung wide open for new types of API usage. For example, do you want an on-screen overlay that shows a live view of your current progression or XP while you play? This enables that without having to poll Hypixel every few seconds. Want a graph of your improvement over time so you can see how your Bed Wars gameplay is getting better? Well, now you can see that. How about live, accurate leaderboards without Hypixel ever needing to lift a finger? The developers have got you, and the list clearly goes on. Any feature that needs more than a handful of requests is really helped by this, and any others sure as hell wouldn't be hurt by it. So finally, the biggest question, how much would this cost for Hypixel? Honestly, it would end up costing net negative for Hypixel, hence the title of this video. The reduction in wasted bandwidth and requests would allow them to tremendously cut down on allocated resources for all API applications. And that's before we even consider the profit from new applications that would level up their whole network for them. See, a system like this isn't as expensive as it sounds. As I said before, Discord already runs something similar, as does YouTube, 2 platforms with tremendous amounts of data throughput, far exceeding Hypixel's. My good friend Thomas, aka the famous YouTuber TG Waffles, has written out an enormous proposal covering in detail just how this could be implemented, with 3 different versions of the idea fully fleshed out depending on what Hypixel prioritizes, whether that be development speed, availability, long-term cost, you name it. I'd also like to add that Hypixel already has a version of this system implemented for a few limited use cases. If we take a stroll over to their API policies, we can see it says some endpoints are created for continuous polling. This includes all of these listed endpoints, of course, but most importantly, they've pretty much added the system described here already with their Bazaar and Auction House APIs. These pages show tens of thousands of auctions on the Auction House, and it simply refreshes with changed data once a minute. Note that this is cached by Cloudflare, so essentially Hypixel only receives 1 request per minute for this data, and that's essentially 0 load on their API from an extremely useful feature. The simplest implementation of this system would be to do essentially the same thing for subsections of the player's profile, showing all players with that data, for example Bed Wars kills, that updated in the previous minute. Instantly, this unlocks similar benefits while making use of a system they've already shown they're willing to use. When it comes down to it, Hypixel is actively losing money by not implementing this system. Hopefully by now you know that too. And if you do, let's try and get this added by upvoting or leaving your thoughts on the forum post linked in the description. Every vote matters, and I'm gonna react to my favorite comments made on the post for the next week. So fingers crossed you guys don't make me read through thousands of replies. Or do. We can do this. Get your name in the record and be part of the new revolution for Hypixel, the next generation of apps, bots, and mods. And if all goes well, I'll see you on the other side.